Dan Illman, Mike Beer. The feature race at beautiful Belmont Park on Saturday is the $125,000 Elusive Quality Stakes for turf runners going 7 furlongs. You can bet this race and the nice Belmont card on Saturday with a DRF Bets account. Remember, when you deposit $100, you get to bet with $250. Learn more at bets.drf.com. Let's meet the field for the Elusive Quality Stakes. Again, we're going 7 furlongs on the Widener turf course. And I want to begin with the number 5, Therapist, who returns for his 4-year-old campaign for Christophe Clement, listed as a first-time gelding. Now, we saw him in late December in the Tropical Park Derby. I think that day he was compromised a little bit by pace. There wasn't a ton of pace, and he was facing a really sharp horse in Breaking the Rules, who came back to run second in the Canadian turf behind Krampus, who we'll get to in a minute. Breaking the Rules earning a 96 buyer in his next start. This horse has run very, very well at Belmont in the past, and he sprinted well in the past, although against inferior competition.
Yeah, that's certainly true that he was facing inferior competition when he sprinted. On the other hand, it's nice to know that he's versatile in terms of distance. It's nice to know, I think, that he's a little bit more versatile than he may appear as far as trip goes, too. It was sort of weird to watch the ride that he got last time because he didn't have to be that far off the pace, and there was just, it felt like even though the pace was slow, there was just no sense of urgency from his rider. He never tried to get him into position until they got to the stretch, and then he let him run, and it was way too late. I don't think that performance is nearly as disappointing as it may appear. Listen, I just think he's a big contender in this race. A new gelding as a 4-year-old for a good trainer. I think this distance is fine for him. And I think he can get a different kind of trip if he has to in this race. I don't know. I just think he's a big contender in here.
3 for 3 sprinting in his career is the number 5, Therapist. I'm a little concerned that he hasn't gotten much faster from a buyer standpoint since Florida Derby Day of 2018. When he looked so good winning that Cutler Bay with a 92 buyer, he's yet to really move forward since then. But again, he's a new gelding. Maybe we can treat him as a new horse, and his best effort puts him right there.
Yeah, and as far as the lack of improvement goes, I mean, I don't know if he's necessarily had a real chance to improve because the 2 wins after that were just races where he never had to get out of a gallop.
Especially
in those races. I mean, he was just airing on those horses without getting down to serious business, and then they went a mile and an eighth, which might be too far for him. He had no pace last time. We'll see what happens. I think you're right. He has to take a step forward, but I think he can do it.
Now, we talked about Therapist. He's undefeated in turf sprints, 3 for 3. Krampus, your morning line favorite, has credentials. He won the Grade 3 Canadian Turf 2 starts back, although he got a very nice trip, I thought, sitting just off the pace, blasting to the lead at just the right time, and holding off Breaking the Rules. It was a nice ride from John Velasquez. Last time out in the Appleton, he caught a wet turf course, and I think just that day he didn't get the right trip.
I agree. I don't know. I don't see what the real difference was there either, because it was a sort of a similarly run race. There wasn't any pace going on. He could have been closer, but they decided not to go closer with him. I actually feel like he was running on pretty gamely at the end of that race, but again, it was way too late. So that was a little strange for me. I think he'll get a better trip in this race. His race 3 starts back even when he was 5th, placed 4th. He had a real trip in that race. This horse is in good form. He feels like he could just sort of do anything trip-wise. I think he can do anything as far as distance goes, too. He makes a lot of sense in this race.
Now, if you just look at the trainer stats in the past performances, you're going to see Belmont blinkers on 3%. You're going to be like, ooh, I don't know if I like this. We dig in a formulator, however, it's a different story. Over the past 5 years with older horses on turf adding blinkers, 26% winners and a positive return on investment. The blinkers don't concern me with Krampus. Here's what concerns me. Okay. This is basically his first true sprint. He has run 7.5 furlongs. Those are 2-turn races.
That's true.
Is this horse sharp enough to get the 7?
Yeah, I don't worry about the distance with horses like him, especially at 7 furlongs at Belmont, because it's a sprint distance, and the good turf sprinters can get 7. But I feel like I think it's much more challenging for horses stretching out than it is for horses turning back, and I actually feel like this horse might fit this race very well.
Let's talk about the pace in this race, because that's really going to be key for several of these horses. Now, the number 1 Abiding Star simply went too fast last time out at Gulfstream, going 2 turns in the El Prado Stakes, and he paid the price. He was probably in too steep anyway. 2 starts back for a $35,000 tag. That's where he fit, and he was able to win it at odds of 5 to 2. He does have some back class. Listen, this is a horse that ran in the Preakness in 2016. I'm not sure if he is a true turf sprinter, but I think he could make the lead in here, and perhaps if there isn't pressure, he can get a piece.
Yeah, I think he can too. He's a really nice horse.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because when you look at him, he's won 4 times on turf, all of those wins in claiming races. But he holds his own when they step him up in class too. He's a hard trying horse. He's got speed. He could make the lead in this race. I think that could make him dangerous at a price. Do I love him in here? No. Am I going to be shocked if he runs a good race? No.
He returns to the barn of Ned Allard, and the last time he ran on firm turf, there is expected to be some rain over the weekend at Belmont. For this barn was the Red Bank. He was able to get to a nice, easy lead, which he might get here, and it took an odds-on favorite and a good grade in stakes horse in Synchrony to run him down, or else he would have pulled off the upset. Number 2 is Finest Point, and we're expecting him to be sitting second in the early portion. He got away to a nice, easy lead, 2 starts back, going 5 furlongs, scored over Tom Belane, who's kind of just a middling optional claiming type. But last time out in the Silks Run, he had no chance because he ran into the freakish Imprimis, who came back to win the Grade 2 Shakertown with the 101 Byron as one of the better turf sprinters in the country. Is this an example of what we were talking about before, though, with Krampus, the stretch out that might be tested at 7?
I mean, I worry about this horse stretching out to 7 in this race. I guess maybe that's just mostly because not only has he been going shorter, but he just feels like he's had some pretty soft trips in those shorter sprint races when he's won. And so I feel like he's going to need everything to go his way if he's going to stretch out to 7 and beat this field. I respect the improvement he's shown since Phil Serpy claimed him. He's obviously done a good job with him, but as you say, 2 back. I mean, he basically walked on the lead in that race. He got loose when he won the start prior to that as well. Maybe he makes the lead. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the lead in this race, but I'd worry about that 7th furlong.
We're closing in on 2 years since the most recent victory for the 6, Big Handsome, but that came over this course at this distance, and there was a little bit of give in the ground. He ran some really nice races without winning after that as a 3-year-old. The problem is Tony Duttras had a whale of a time keeping him sound. I think there was an ankle chip that cost him most of last year. He came back in a 5.5 furlong race. I guess he ran okay behind the speedy Leighton Revenge. I think a good trip is coming here. He can sit 3rd off a fair pace and give Manny Franco every chance turning into the lane. It's just, you just see these layoff lines and you wonder physically, what do you get?
I think you wonder what he has left, absolutely. He was a really good 3-year-old turf horse, especially going shorter. They stretched him out in a couple of races. I thought he ran fine in the Manila. I thought he ran fine in the Hall of Fame, but those races may be a little too far for him. I'll admit, a little disappointed when they finally cut him back, that he didn't run that well in his final 2 starts as a 3-year-old, and then it's been one problem after another since then. I look at his fairground race, and I think you could look at it one of 2 ways. You could say, you know what, he was off a long layoff in there. The horse that won it got absolutely loose on the lead, and this horse made up ground on him the entire way. I think that's a fair way to look at it. I watched it and felt like he didn't really do that much running. He only got beat 3/4 of a length in there. To me, that race wasn't nearly that close. I think he has to take a big step forward in this spot.
Longest shot on the tote, the 7 VIP code. This horse is returning off over a year layoff and switching surfaces. Now, his 1 turf race was really good when he finished behind Therapist at Belmont, but that was all the way back in 2017. I'm sure these connections would just like to see a nice effort off the bench without any sort of re-aggravation of an injury.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, he's actually a pretty nice horse, but this feels like coming off this kind of a long layoff, this is not an easy spot.
We agree on this race. Let's take a look at our top selection for the Elusive Quality. We're going to have to deal with a layoff runner in the European Invader, the number 3 M House, who ran really well last time out in Great Britain. This horse was originally purchased by China Horse Club for a big sum as a yearling. He started his career off winning 3 of his first 4 starts. It looked like he was going to be on his way to being a true group horse, and for whatever reason, injuries, turf courses that weren't to his liking, he never panned out. His last race was okay. He went through the auction ring, was purchased by Connor Murphy, who has had success with horses purchased overseas, racing prospects like Great Wide Open. This horse needs to break, and he needs a little bit of pace, but I think he has ability.
I agree with all those things. I mean, you watch his races over there, and it feels like he doesn't get out of the gate that well. I would worry about that with him in this race, but otherwise, I mean, I basically like all of his races. As you say, he won 3 of his first 4 starts. All of them at this distance, by the way, all the wins. And I just thought he ran well in all those races. And I know he didn't win any group races, but you know, for the most part, he ran pretty well in those tougher races throughout the summer of last year. His final start over there last October was a really good performance. I don't know how he didn't get there at the end. Actually, he did get there. He just missed a brutal bob. That was a good effort. And I like the fact that he won as a first-time starter. He won off the layoff in his only start that he was able to make as a 3-year-old, and then he won a stakes race off the layoff in his 4-year-old debut. So it feels like he goes well fresh. If he can get any kind of a trip in this race, I just felt like this is an Elusive Quality that didn't come up all that strong, to be perfectly honest. And I feel like if he runs his race in here, he could be a big factor.
Up to Jose Ortiz to get him out of the gate, keep him within range, and hopefully he can use that Euro kick in the lane. We're both going with the 3. Mike's going 3, 5, 4, and 6. I'm going 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the $125,000 Elusive Quality race number 9 at Belmont on Saturday. Again, remember to bet it with DRF Bets, because when you deposit $100, you get to bet with $250. DRF Bets is easy as ready, set, bet. An approximate post time for the Elusive Quality, 5:51 Eastern. Good luck.